Chaos often feels like the default setting of modern life. Your phone buzzes with a new challenge. The news cycle brings constant updates, and your own plans can shift without warning. It can feel like standing in the center of a storm, trying to steady yourself against the wind. 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius faced his own relentless seasons of difficulty, from political tensions to personal transitions. He wrote in his private journal that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This video will share ancient Stoic perspectives to help you cultivate unshakable calm, transforming that feeling of being swept up from a source of worry into an opportunity for profound strength. We will explore the core ideas of Stoic reflection as practical steps you can use today, focusing on meaningful mindset shifts and usable techniques to support your inner stability. How will you find the calm at the center of your own storm? When chaos erupts, what is the very first thing you should identify? It is not the solution to the problem itself, but the boundaries of your own influence. The ancient Stoics built their entire philosophy on a single, powerful distinction, a tool they called the Dichotomy of Control. This is your foundational anchor in any storm. It is the practice of separating everything in your life into two clear categories: what is up to you and what is not. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, who began his life in a situation of great challenge before teaching these very principles, opens his handbook with this unshakable truth. Some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are our judgments, our impulses, our desires, and our reactions. Everything else, from the weather to the actions of other people, is not within our power. This is not a philosophy of surrender. It is the ultimate strategy for focus. By ceasing to waste your mental energy fighting what you cannot change, you free up all your power to master what you can, your own mind. Think of being stuck in a traffic jam. You have no control over the red lights stretching ahead or the driver who cut you off. But you have absolute control over whether you spend that time fuming with frustration or choosing to listen to an interesting podcast, accepting the delay with patience. Your reaction is your domain. This is where your true power resides. So take a moment right now. Think of 3 things that are currently causing you stress. It could be a difficult conversation you are anticipating, a project at work that feels overwhelming, or a personal concern. Now, mentally place each one into its proper category. Is this something within my control, or is it outside of it? This simple act of sorting does not make the external challenge disappear, but it does something far more important. It reorients your entire perspective, pulling your attention back to the one place where you can always take meaningful action, your own inner world. Stoics practiced a form of mental judo. Here is the first move. It begins the very moment a challenging thought enters your mind before you have even fully reacted. They called this initial thought an impression. An impression is not the truth. It is merely a raw piece of data, a suggestion from your senses or your emotions. Your power lies in what you do next, in the tiny but crucial space between receiving that impression and giving it your full belief. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. The disturbance, he notes, comes not from the event itself, but from our judgment of it. Imagine your phone buzzes with a work email that feels demanding. The initial impression might whisper, "This is a serious problem. My entire project is off track." That feeling is automatic, a quick wave of concern. Cognitive detachment is the practice of catching that wave and holding it gently for a moment. You observe the thought without immediately agreeing with it. You might say to yourself, I am having the impression that this is a difficult situation. That simple act of naming it creates a sliver of space. In that space, you can ask a thoughtful question. Is this truly unmanageable, or is it something I can approach one step at a time? By withholding your immediate assent, you slow the emotional reaction before it ever builds speed. Think back to a recent time you felt a sudden wave of frustration or worry. Perhaps a comment from someone close made you feel instantly defensive, or a small planned change seemed unexpectedly disruptive. In that moment, an impression arrived and you likely accepted it without a second thought. Now consider what might have unfolded if you had inserted just a brief pause, a moment to simply observe that initial thought without letting it define the situation. That pause is where your freedom resides. It is the difference between being carried by the current and finding your footing on solid ground. Let us pull back the camera on your problems way back. Imagine for a moment you are no longer standing in the middle of your own situation, but floating high above the earth, watching your city become a tiny patch of light, then your country a shape on a globe, until the entire planet is just a pale blue dot in the vast, silent expanse of the cosmos. This is the essence of the Stoic practice known as the view from above. It is a deliberate mental shift designed to soften the intensity of our immediate worries. When a problem feels all-consuming, it is often because we have zoomed in too close. We are examining a single thread with a magnifying glass, forgetting it is part of a much grander tapestry. Marcus Aurelius regularly practiced this perspective to maintain his composure amid the immense pressures of leading an empire. He would write in his meditations to remember that all of this, the arguments, the celebrations, the concerns, has happened before and will happen again. He reflected on the countless generations that have come and gone, their triumphs and quieter moments now part of a long human story. The goal is not to dismiss your challenges as meaningless, but to see them in their true proportion. Your difficult meeting, your financial concern, your personal disagreement, when placed against the backdrop of cosmic time and space, often loses its overwhelming sharpness. This perspective is deeply connected to the Stoic ideal of Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. It is the understanding that every event, even the one that feels like a setback, is a necessary thread in the whole cloth of your life and the universe itself. To practice this, take a current worry. Perhaps it is a tension with a colleague or a concern about an upcoming event. Now, close your eyes and visualize it from the peak of a timeless mountain. See the small figures moving below, the brief flash of this moment against centuries of stone and sky, or picture it from orbit as a single, quiet point on a spinning world. Does the problem feel smaller, less solid, perhaps even a little less personal? That shift in feeling is the point. It creates a spaciousness in your mind where calm can enter. This exercise does not solve the issue for you, but it returns to you the clarity and emotional stability needed to address it wisely. Your challenge is real, but its power to dominate your entire inner world is an impression you can now see through. How might your approach to today's biggest stress change if you saw it as just one small part of a much larger and ultimately benevolent story? What if you could vaccinate your mind against future anxiety? This is the promise of a powerful Stoic exercise known as Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of adversities. It sounds almost like a contradiction, deliberately thinking about what could go wrong. But this is not pessimistic worrying, which is a passive state of fear. This is a strategic and active rehearsal, a way to train your mind so that if a challenge does arrive, it finds you prepared, resilient, and already equipped with a plan. The Stoic philosopher Seneca beautifully captured the spirit of this practice in his letters. He wrote that we should project our thoughts ahead of us at every turn and have in mind every possible eventuality instead of only the usual course of events. He is not inviting us to live in dread, but to live in readiness. By anticipating potential setbacks, we accomplish two profound things. We dramatically reduce the shock and emotional force of the event if it happens, and we develop a much deeper appreciation for the good things we possess right now. Think of it like a fire drill. You do not practice a fire drill because you are certain a fire will happen. You practice it so that if the alarm ever sounds, your body and mind know what to do. Panic is replaced by purposeful action. Let us apply this to a common modern scenario. You have a difficult conversation coming up with a family member or a colleague. Your usual pattern might be to anxiously avoid thinking about it, which only makes the tension grow. The Stoic approach is different. You would sit down in a quiet moment and intentionally walk through the possibility of the conversation going poorly. What if they become defensive? What if they do not understand my point? What is the absolute worst realistic outcome? Perhaps it is a temporary strain in the relationship. Now, having identified that potential outcome, you shift your focus to the only thing that truly matters in Stoic practice: your own reasoned response. How would I choose to act with integrity and compassion, even in that situation? How could I learn from it and move forward? By mentally rehearsing this scenario, you are not inviting it to happen. You are disarming it of its power to surprise and control you. The anxiety loses its sharp edge because you have already faced it in the safety of your own mind and discovered that you have a path through it. So take a moment with your own life. Pick one future event that is quietly causing you some concern. It does not have to be a major crisis, perhaps a work presentation, a difficult task, or a travel plan. Now close your eyes and briefly walk through the most challenging, realistic scenario. Do not just fear it, outline it. Then, and this is the most crucial step, focus entirely on your response. What is the first rational, virtuous action you would take? This simple act of mental preparation transforms the unknown from a monster in the shadows into a mapped territory. You realize that your calm and your character are not dependent on everything going perfectly, but are resources you carry within you, ready for whatever the world might bring. The Stoics did not just advise acceptance, they advised love. Amor Fati, a love of one's fate, is the ultimate mindset shift. This is far more than simply putting up with a difficult situation. It is an active, creative embrace of every single event, viewing each one as a necessary and beneficial ingredient for your own growth. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by these ancient ideas, later captured this spirit perfectly. He wrote that his formula for human greatness is Amor Fati, the desire for nothing to be different, not in the future, not in the past, not for all eternity. This is not about pretending that hardship feels good. It is about recognizing that every obstacle contains the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, but only if you have the perspective to find it. Epictetus, teaching his students how to face any circumstance, offered a simple, powerful mantra. Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, he advised, but wish for things to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. Imagine receiving a rejection for a job you deeply wanted. The initial impression is one of disappointment. Passive resignation would have you sigh and move on, perhaps carrying a lingering sense of things not working out. Amor Fati asks a different question entirely. What if this rejection is not a closing door, but a vital redirection? What if it is saving you from a role that was not the right fit, or freeing you for an opportunity that aligns more perfectly with your skills and purpose? This reframe transforms the event from a personal setback into a strategic part of your life's journey. Your task is not to change the past, but to find the meaning hidden within it. So take a recent event that felt like a misfortune, anything from a missed connection to a project that fell through. Now, challenge yourself to identify just one potential hidden benefit. Did it teach you something crucial about your own boundaries? Did it force you to develop a new skill you had been avoiding? Did it simply clear space for something better to arrive? By searching for that single thread of value, you are not denying the difficulty. You are exercising your power to weave every experience, especially the challenging ones, into the resilient and purposeful fabric of your life. Imagine your mind has walls. Here is how to reinforce them. The ancient Stoics envisioned our inner self as a fortress, an unassailable citadel where our true power resides. Your reasoning faculty is the stronghold at the center, and the chaos of the outside world is merely noise beyond the gates. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire in constant flux, wrote to himself, "Remember this, that your soul is of an unconquerable nature." He was not describing a life without challenge, but a spirit that cannot be conquered from the outside because it refuses to surrender from within. The noise can be loud and persistent, but it cannot cross the threshold unless you personally open the gate and invite it in. Think of a massive construction site right outside your home. The sound of heavy machinery is a real, physical presence. It exists. You cannot stop the noise itself. But inside your home, you have a choice. You can stand by the window, focusing on the disruption, letting the vibration affect your mood all day. Or you can move to a quiet room in the back, put on some calming music, and focus on the book you are reading. The noise has not disappeared, but you have decided it will not dominate the atmosphere of your home. Your inner citadel works in the same way. The difficult message, the challenging headline, the unexpected delay, these are all just machinery outside your walls. They make their noise. Your power lies in turning your attention inward, to the quiet room of your own judgment where your reasoned choices live. What is one external noise currently on your mind in your own life? Is it the constant stream of information alerts, the view of a particular person, or the weight of a common expectation? Now, consider how you can strengthen your inner walls against it today. Perhaps it means consciously limiting your time with that source, or it could be a simple mental reminder that this is an external event and you hold the key to your own inner calm. The fortress stands not because the world is quiet, but because its gates are guarded by your own conscious attention. Why would a Stoic deliberately choose to feel cold or hunger or a little bit of discomfort? It seems to go against every instinct we have for ease and security. Yet this practice, known as voluntary discomfort, was a core training exercise for the Stoics, a way to build resilience muscles long before they were truly needed. The Roman philosopher Seneca regularly set aside a few days each month for what he called a period of simplicity. He would live on the most basic food and wear his plainest clothing. He did this not as a punishment, but as a vital reminder. He wrote that we must learn to want very little, to prove to ourselves that a happy life does not rest on external comforts. His contemporary, the teacher Musonius Rufus, believed that practicing with small hardships makes you steady in the face of situations that might unsettle another person. The goal is to prepare your mind for the possibility of change. By willingly experiencing small, manageable forms of unease, you show your deepest self that you can handle them. You take the fear right out of future challenges. Think of it like a vaccine for your peace of mind. A tiny, controlled exposure to a little difficulty builds up powerful resilience within your character. So what does this look like in a modern life? It does not require dramatic acts of self-denial. It is about small, intentional choices. You might decide to take a cooler shower than usual, not for any health claim, but simply to practice meeting a minor physical sensation with calm acceptance. You could choose to walk to the store on a brisk day instead of driving, feeling the fresh air and accepting the slight chill as part of the experience. You might skip a single meal, not as a dietary rule, but to observe the feeling of hunger and realize it is a temporary state that you can manage with patience. These are not tests of endurance, but experiments in perspective. They are brief visits to the edges of your comfort zone to prove that the borders are much wider and more flexible than you imagined. Your happiness, you discover, is not held hostage by perfect conditions. This week, I invite you to choose one small, voluntary step outside your usual routine. It could be as simple as leaving your phone in another room for an evening, or sitting on a firm chair instead of a soft couch while you read. Observe what happens in your mind. Do you feel a subtle resistance, a voice insisting on ease? And then watch as that resistance softens as you realize you are perfectly fine. This small act is a quiet declaration of independence from a world that constantly sells you comfort. It is you building your inner strength, one chosen stone at a time. A huge part of feeling out of control is wanting the wrong things. We chase after outcomes, possessions, and validations that are ultimately outside the boundaries of our own will, setting ourselves up for a cycle of hope and inevitable disappointment. The Stoics addressed this core issue with a powerful mental discipline, the discipline of desire. Its goal is to retrain your wants so they align only with what is truly good, which they defined as virtue, and what is truly within your power, which is your own character and choices. This realignment is not about suppressing desire, but about redirecting its immense energy toward the only goals that can never be taken from you. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, who understood the profound link between our wants and our inner freedom, put it with characteristic clarity. He said that freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by transforming it. He does not mean destroying your capacity to want anything at all. He means releasing the desires that chain you to external outcomes you cannot command. Your freedom is found in wanting only what you can reliably have, your own integrity, your wisdom, your courage, and your justice. To make this practical, the Stoics introduced a crucial classification system for the things we typically pursue. They called things like health, financial comfort, and a good reputation preferred indifference. This is a fascinating term. They are preferred because, all else being equal, it is perfectly rational to choose health over illness or comfort over hardship. But they are indifference because they have no true power to make you good or bad, happy or unhappy. Your moral character, your virtue, is the only true good. Think of it like playing a game. It is preferred to have a good hand of cards, but being a good player, making skillful and honorable moves with whatever hand you are dealt, is what actually defines your success. The outcome of the game is indifferent, your conduct is everything. Now, bring this into a modern context, like the desire for social media validation. You post a picture or a thought, and you find yourself refreshing the page, hoping for likes and positive comments. That desire for external approval is a want directed at something outside your control. You cannot force people to engage. This desire, when it goes unfulfilled, becomes a direct source of frustration and anxiety. Contrast that with the desire for self-respect and integrity. You want to post something that is true to your values, that is kind, or that is thoughtful. This desire is entirely within your control. You can choose to act with integrity regardless of the external response. Fulfilling this desire brings a quiet, unshakable satisfaction that no algorithm can ever disrupt. So, take a quiet moment for a brief inventory of your own wants. Bring to mind 3 things you strongly desire right now. Perhaps it is a specific promotion, a particular person's affection, or achieving a certain social milestone. Now for each one, gently ask this Stoic question: is obtaining this thing fully within my control? If the answer is no, if it depends on the decisions of others, on chance, or on unpredictable circumstances, then recognize that desire for what it is, a potential distraction from your inner strength. This is not a call to abandon your goals, but to reframe them. Shift your primary desire from obtaining the external outcome to acting with excellence, virtue, and wisdom in its pursuit. Want to be diligent and courageous in your work, not just to get the promotion. Want to be a loving and honest person, not just to receive affection in return. By making this subtle but profound shift, you reclaim your power. You discover that the deepest satisfaction was never in the reward you are chasing, but in the person you become along the way. The most powerful Stoic tool might be a pen and a blank page. This simple act of writing can transform your inner chaos into a structured dialogue with your own mind, a practice the Stoics called a nightly review. Think of it as a form of mental accounting, where you settle the emotional experiences of the day by carefully examining your judgments and reactions through the clear lens of Stoic principles. The most famous example of this is not a formal philosophical text, but a private journal, the personal writings of the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, known today as his Meditations. He was not writing for an audience, but for himself, to reinforce his own understanding and guide his inner life. In one passage, he reminds himself to examine his impressions, to strip away the story we tell ourselves about an event and see the bare thing itself. This is the core of Stoic journaling, objectifying your thoughts by putting them on paper where you can observe them with calm detachment, no longer as feelings swirling inside you, but as words you can analyze and question. The process is beautifully simple and takes only a few minutes. You begin by asking, what happened today that disturbed my peace? Write down the event plainly without dramatic language. Next, apply the dichotomy of control. What aspects of this situation were truly within my power and which were not? This immediately reorients your focus. Then turn your attention to your judgment. How did I interpret this event? Did I immediately label it as a catastrophe or an injustice? Finally, and most importantly, ask yourself, how could I have responded more in line with virtue? What would courage or wisdom have looked like in that moment? This is not about self-criticism, but about preparing for the next time. For instance, imagine your journal entry after a tense team meeting. What happened? My idea was discussed. Within my control, my preparation, my delivery, my reaction to the feedback. Outside my control, my colleagues' tone, their personal opinions, the final decision. My judgment, I felt defensive and unheard. A more thoughtful response next time. I could listen fully without interrupting, thank them for their perspective, and clarify my points with calm confidence. This 5-minute exercise does something remarkable. It takes the internal storm and gives it a shape, a form you can manage. It builds a bridge between the philosophy you are learning and the person you are becoming in your daily life. Tonight, before you rest, try this for yourself. Take just 5 minutes with a notebook, pick one event from your day, and walk it through these 4 simple questions. You may find that the page becomes your most trusted Stoic teacher, reflecting back not just your challenges, but the profound strength already growing within you to meet them. How would you act today if you knew it was your last? This question is the heart of the Stoic practice known as Memento Mori, a Latin phrase that translates to remember you must transition. Far from being a somber thought, this was considered by the Stoics to be one of the most vital and life-affirming exercises. It is a profound call to urgency, a tool to instantly clarify your priorities and dissolve the trivial worries that so often consume our mental energy. Marcus Aurelius, constantly aware of the fragility of life even as an emperor, wrote in his Meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He is not inviting fear, but a fierce and loving focus. When you hold the awareness that your time is limited and precious, it becomes remarkably clear what deserves your attention and what does not. The practice shifts your perspective from a vague assumption of endless tomorrows to the powerful truth of a finite today. Imagine you are about to have a difficult conversation, one where you feel a rising social anxiety about being judged or saying the wrong thing. Now hold the Memento Mori thought gently in your mind. If this were truly your final day, would the other person's minor critique or your own moment of awkwardness hold any real weight at all? The need to be perfect, to be liked, to win a small point, it all just falls away, leaving only what is essential, the desire to connect with honesty and kindness. The petty argument that ruined your morning, the frustration over a delayed package, the envy over a colleague's achievement, when viewed through this lens, these anxieties lose their substance. They are revealed as shadows you have been chasing in a room that is, in truth, filled with light. This remembrance is not a reason for sorrow, but a key to unlock a deeper gratitude for the simple fact of being alive, for the people you love, and for the opportunity to act with virtue right now, in this very moment. So take a quiet breath and consider this. What is one worry, one source of irritation or fear that you would release immediately if you fully embraced the truth of Memento Mori? Feel the space that opens up when you let that minor concern go. In that space, you find not an ending, but a much more meaningful beginning, feeling alone in chaos. The Stoics saw the universe as one living body. This profound idea is known as Sympatheia, the understanding that everything and everyone is part of a single, rational, interconnected organism. When you feel isolated in your struggle, this perspective can be a deep source of comfort, reminding you that you are not a solitary fragment, but a vital cell in a vast, breathing whole. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly returned to this vision to ground himself. He wrote that the rational soul moves through the entire cosmos and its surrounding space and gazes into endless time. He pictured all things as woven together with one another. A sacred bond exists between them. In another passage, he beautifully compared humanity to leaves on a great tree, each one unique and temporary, yet all drawing life from the same deep root and belonging to the same majestic structure. Your life, with all its particular challenges, is one of those leaves. This is not a call to lose your individuality, but to understand it within a grander context. Your actions, your choices, and even your hardships are part of a larger, coherent process. Think of a global challenge, like a widespread health situation or an economic shift. It is easy to feel like a powerless speck, moved by forces you cannot fully grasp, but the Stoic view asks you to see yourself as a conscious part of that whole. Your responsibility is not to single-handedly solve the situation, but to play your part with reason and compassion, strengthening the overall well-being of the community in your own sphere of influence. Or consider a team project that does not succeed. The instinct might be to assign blame to one person or to feel that your own contribution was wasted. Sympatheia reframes this. The outcome was not just one broken piece, but a dynamic within the entire system. Your role is to understand your connection to that result, to learn from the shared experience, and to help the whole team, the entire organism, grow stronger and wiser from the event. So take a moment with your own current situation. Identify one specific way you are deeply connected to and dependent on others in the midst of your challenge. Perhaps your stress at work is linked to the effort of a colleague in another department. Maybe your personal concern is shared by a family member, making your calm a resource for them as well. Recognizing this web of connection transforms isolation into a sense of shared purpose. Your struggle is not yours alone to carry. It is a note in a much larger symphony, and your steady presence makes the entire piece more harmonious. How to give 100% without being devastated by failure. Use the Stoic loophole. The ancient Stoics perfected a mental technique for exactly this challenge, a subtle but powerful addition to any plan you make. They called it the reserve clause. This is the practice of adding a silent, mental phrase to every one of your undertakings. A simple clause like "fate permitting" or "if nothing prevents me." Epictetus, the philosopher who taught this with great clarity, instructed his students to undertake nothing without this reservation. He said, when you're going to perform an act, remind yourself what kind of an act it is. You are going to bathe, he explained. Picture what happens at a bath, people splashing, some jostling you, things being misplaced. And you will undertake the act more securely if you say to yourself at the outset, I want to bathe and to keep my will in harmony with nature. This is the core of the idea. You state your intention clearly, you commit your full effort to it, but you simultaneously hold in your mind the understanding that the final outcome is woven from many threads, not all of which are in your hands. This is not a half-hearted effort, it is the opposite. It is a 100% commitment to the part of the process you truly own, your own action, while releasing your desperate grip on the final result you cannot command. Think of an athlete training for the Olympic Games. Her goal is to win a gold medal. She cannot control that outcome. She cannot control the performance of her competitors, the judgment of the officials, or a sudden change in the weather on the day of the event. What she can control completely is the quality of her training today, her discipline, her focus, her nutrition, her rest. The reserve clause means she pours every ounce of her being into that training, all while holding the thought, I will give my absolute best, fate permitting. This mental shift transforms her entire experience. If she does not win, the effort was not a waste. It was the full and virtuous expression of her commitment, and the outcome simply was not permitted by circumstances beyond her will. Or consider a professional applying for their dream job. They can control the quality of their application, the research they do on the company, the thoughtful tailoring of their resume, and the energy they bring to the interview. They cannot control the hiring manager's personal preferences, the sudden imposition of a hiring freeze, or another candidate who happens to have a unique skill set. By applying with the reserve clause in mind, they do their very best work without tying their entire self-worth to a yes or no. The goal shifts from I must get this job to I will act with excellence in my pursuit of this opportunity. Now bring this to your own life. State a current goal you are working toward, something that matters to you. It could be a creative project, a fitness target, or a personal conversation you need to have. Now mentally add the reserve clause to it. Say to yourself, I will work toward this with all my heart, fate permitting. Do you feel a subtle shift, a slight loosening of the tension in your chest, a small release of the worry about falling short? That feeling is the weight of attachment being lifted. You are free to strive, not because you are guaranteed success, but because the act of striving itself, done with integrity, is its own profound reward. We often feel out of control because we claim ownership over things that were never truly ours. We say my car, my reputation, my career, as if these external things are fused to our very identity. The Stoics saw this confusion as a primary source of our anxiety, and they offered a clarifying idea to help: Oikeiosis, the practice of recognizing what is genuinely your own. Your true property is not your physical possessions or your social standing, but your capacity for choice, your ability to reason, and the quality of your character. The great teacher Epictetus drew a clear line between what we are and what we merely have. He taught that no one is truly harmed by the actions of another, only by their own judgments about those actions. He said, "Remember that what feels insulting is not the person who speaks harshly or acts unfairly, but the judgment we form that their behavior is insulting." So another person cannot damage your core self, your proherses, which is your inner moral purpose. They can only affect what lies outside it. Think of your most valued external possession, perhaps your home. You care for it, you maintain it, but you understand on some level that it is not you. A storm could affect the roof, a fire could alter it, yet you would remain. Oikeiosis invites you to extend that same understanding to everything else you might hold tightly: your professional role, your physical well-being, even your closest relationships. These are not you. They are gifts or circumstances that you have the privilege of engaging with, but they are on loan from life itself. They are externals you can appreciate and prefer, but never truly own. Your car, for example, is a useful tool. If someone touches its door in a parking lot, the mark is on the external tool. But your reaction, your decision to respond with frustration or with calm acceptance, that is where your true property lies. That reasoned response is the one thing that is authentically and completely yours. So take a quiet moment for a brief but powerful inventory. Bring to mind 3 things you strongly identify with that you would say are a core part of who you are. Perhaps it is your job title, manager or artist. Maybe it is your relationship role, partner or parent. Or it could be a physical ability you value. Now, for each one, gently ask yourself a question. If this were no longer mine tomorrow, would my essential self, my capacity to choose wisely and act with integrity, remain whole? The title may change, a relationship may shift, the body will age, but the inner citadel of your character stands independent of it all. Recognizing this is not a loss, but a profound liberation. It is the discovery that you are far more than your circumstances, and that your true worth was never on the line in the first place. What if everything happening, even the difficult parts, is part of a rational, benevolent plan? This is the cornerstone of the Stoic understanding of Providence, a trust that the cosmos is not a chaotic accident but an ordered whole, guided by a divine reason that weaves every event, including our personal challenges, into a meaningful tapestry. This is not about blind faith in a specific outcome, but a profound working hypothesis that what nature brings is for the good of the whole, and therefore for our own ultimate good as part of that whole. The Stoic philosopher Cleans expressed this serene trust in his hymn to Zeus, writing, "Lead me, O Zeus, and thou, O destiny, to the goal which you have appointed for me. I will follow without hesitation." And Marcus Aurelius constantly reinforced this in his own mind, writing that we should accept whatever happens to us as necessary and familiar, flowing like water from a spring that is your own. To trust in Providence is to stop wrestling with the current of reality and to learn instead how to swim with it. Imagine facing a sudden career shift, a project that ends, or an unexpected professional transition. The initial impression may speak of uncertainty. The providential view invites a different interpretation. What if this closing is not an endpoint but a vital redirection? What if the universe, in its vast and often incomprehensible wisdom, is clearing space for an opportunity that aligns more perfectly with your hidden talents or a deeper purpose you have not yet discovered? This is not a call to passive waiting, but to active, trusting engagement with what is. Your task is to use your reason to find the next right step, while holding the possibility that this difficult turn was a necessary part of the journey. So take a quiet moment with a current hardship in your own life. Choose one specific challenge, perhaps a relational tension or a financial pressure. Now try on the lens of Providence, even if just for a few seconds. can you consider that this situation, as uncomfortable as it might feel, could be an essential instructor? What is it trying to teach you about resilience, about your true priorities, or about a path you have been too hesitant to walk? You do not need to have the entire map, only to trust that the path itself has a destination, and that every step, even the rocky ones, is taking you there. The most powerful Stoic move takes less than a second: the pause. This tiny space between a triggering event and your reaction is the entire battlefield of Stoic practice, the moment where your freedom is either lost or won. We have explored how to detach from initial impressions, but this is the physical habit that makes that mental shift possible. It is in this deliberate hesitation that you create an opening for your rational mind to step in, separating the raw stimulus from your chosen response. Seneca, writing on the nature of strong feelings, gave this exact counsel. The best approach is a brief delay, he advised. Tell yourself to wait, not to act on the feeling until it has settled. He was not suggesting you ignore the emotion, but that you give it a moment to breathe, allowing your higher faculty of reason to assess the situation clearly. Imagine you receive a strongly worded message from a colleague, something that feels like a personal challenge. Your body tenses, your heart rate quickens, and the immediate impulse is to send a defensive or equally sharp reply. This is the critical juncture. Instead of clicking send, you practice the Stoic pause. You physically push your chair back from the desk, take one slow breath, and stand up. You walk away for just 60 seconds. In that brief window, the initial intensity of the impression begins to soften. You can then apply the tools you possess. You ask, what part of this is within my control? You cannot control the words they sent, but you have absolute command over the words you send in return. Your judgment shifts from "this is an injustice against me" to "this is a communication I can handle with integrity." The goal is not to become emotionless, but to ensure your actions are guided by your values, not your reflexes. The next time you feel that sudden surge of frustration in a discussion or the cold grip of worry before a difficult task, make a contract with yourself to insert this intentional pause. It can be as simple as silently counting to 3 or taking a single, conscious breath. In that fleeting stillness, you will find a profound power, the power to choose your next move from a place of calm strength, not from a place of reactive fear. Stoics had a secret approach for working with fear. They called it stripping the bark. This technique, formerly known as contemptuous presentation, is the practice of mentally exploring a daunting object or situation by breaking it into its basic, unadorned parts, revealing the simple and often ordinary reality that lies beneath the intimidating label. Marcus Aurelius was a master of this. He would look at a luxurious meal and see it as a fish or a harvested plant. He would observe a rich purple robe and remind himself it is just sheep's wool colored with dye from a shellfish. A fine wine was merely fermented grape juice. He was not dismissing the world's beauty, but he was actively setting aside the layers of social meaning and emotional weight we often place on things. He was peeling back the story to see the substance, and in doing so, he gently loosened those things from their power to stir strong desire, envy, or worry. This is a form of mental clarity, seeing past the surface to the framework beneath. You can apply this same thoughtful process to your own concerns. Take the common worry about public speaking. The very phrase can bring a wave of tension through your body, but what is public speaking when you break it down to its physical parts? It is standing on 2 feet. It is breathing air in and out. It is forming sounds with your mouth that travel through the air to other people who are also just standing or sitting, breathing and listening. It is a gathering of human beings in a room, sharing information. The intense feeling of stage fright, when brought down to its objective parts, becomes a simple, manageable series of actions. The fear is in the story you have built around it, the idea of judgment and possible setback, not in the act itself. Now bring this to your own life. Pick one thing that quietly causes you some apprehension. Perhaps it is a financial review, a visit to a health professional, or a conversation you have been putting off. Hold that concern in your mind for just a moment. Now begin to strip its bark. What is it in the plainest, most literal terms? A financial review is just a conversation with numbers on a screen. A health visit is a professional using tools to learn about your body. A conversation is a verbal exchange of perspectives. Break it down into its simplest, most neutral components. Do you feel a subtle shift, a slight easing of the tightness in your chest? The worry begins to lose its solid form, becoming a collection of smaller, manageable pieces you can approach one by one. The power was never in the thing itself, but in the colorful story you had wrapped around it. Where is the only place you can ever actually apply Stoic reasoning? Right here, right now. The past is a memory, a story we tell ourselves, and the future is a projection, a guess our minds construct. Both are mental illusions that pull our attention away from the only reality that truly exists, this single, fleeting moment. The Roman philosopher Seneca saw this human tendency with striking clarity. He wrote that we are naturally inclined to be more greatly troubled by what is to come because of our uncertainty, and we let the present slip away from us. We exhaust ourselves worrying about tomorrow's meeting or replaying yesterday's conversation, and in doing so, we lose the only time we ever truly possess. This is not a call to ignore planning or reflection, but to recognize that all planning and all reflection must happen in the present. Your sphere of action, the only place where your will can ever manifest, is exactly where you are sitting, breathing, and listening right now. Your concern about a future challenge cannot be solved in the future. It can only be met with preparation and calm in this moment. Your thoughts about a past experience cannot be changed. They can only be learned from right now. The Stoic focus on the present is the ultimate grounding technique. It pulls you back from the dizzying cliffs of what if and if only, and places your feet firmly on the solid ground of what is. Think of a demanding workday when your to-do list feels like an impossible mountain. The worry does not come from the single email you are writing at this very second. It comes from the mental projection of all the emails that will follow, the meetings still to come, the entire weight of the week ahead. The Stoic response is to deliberately collapse that timeline. Bring your full attention to the one task directly in front of you. Just this email, just this sentence. The mountain becomes a single, manageable stone you can pick up and carry. The feeling of being overwhelmed loses its power when you refuse to live anywhere but here. So let us try a simple 1-minute practice together, right where you are. Pause the video if you wish. For just 60 seconds, stop everything and fully notice 3 sensory details in your immediate environment. What is one thing you can see, perhaps the way light falls on a surface near you? What is one thing you can hear, maybe the gentle hum of an appliance or the distant sound of life outside? What is one thing you can feel, the texture of your clothing or the solid support of the chair beneath you? Do not just note them and move on. Rest your attention on each one, fully inhabiting the sensation. This is not a meditation exercise, it is a reality check. It is you reclaiming your presence in the only time and place where your life actually happens, and where your Stoic strength is always, without exception, available to you. Stoic courage is not about being fearless, it is about what you do while you are afraid. This virtue is the disciplined choice to move forward with right action even as your heart beats faster and your mind whispers warnings. It is the reasoned application of your will when facing any challenge that touches something you naturally prefer, like your comfort, your security, or your social standing. The ancient Stoics saw courage as a form of practical wisdom, a deep understanding of what is truly worth acting for and what is merely a shadow we should walk through. Cato the Younger, a Roman senator known for his unwavering integrity, was a living example of this principle. He would often appear in public dressed in simple clothing, deliberately challenging the luxurious norms of his time, not because he was unafraid of ridicule, but because his commitment to his principles was far greater than his fear of social judgment. His courage was not a lack of feeling, but the triumph of purpose over pressure. This is what separates Stoic courage from recklessness. Recklessness ignores the threat altogether, while courage sees the threat clearly, assesses it with reason, and decides that a core value demands action regardless. Think of a situation at work where you see a practice you believe is unfair or inconsistent with your values. The concern is real and legitimate, a worry about being sidelined, creating tension, or not being seen as a team player. Recklessness would be angrily confronting your manager without any preparation or thought for the outcome. Stoic courage looks different. It involves preparing your thoughts, choosing a respectful time to speak, and clearly stating your principled concern, all while fully accepting that the result may not be in your favor. You are not acting to guarantee a specific result, but to uphold your own integrity. The act itself, done with reason and justice, is the courageous victory. Or consider the profound courage required to make a difficult but necessary life change, like leaving a stable but unfulfilling career path to pursue a deeper calling. The worry about financial uncertainty or about starting over is a powerful, legitimate feeling. Courage here is not the absence of that feeling, but the daily decision to take one small, considered step forward, updating a resume, having an exploratory conversation, taking a single class, all while carrying that concern as a passenger, not letting it take the wheel. So take a quiet moment and ask yourself this reflective question. What is one thing concern is currently stopping you from doing that aligns with your deepest values? It does not have to be a grand, life-altering move. It could be the courage to set a boundary with someone close, to finally start a creative project you have been postponing, or to admit a mistake and begin to make things right. Identify that one value-aligned action, and then consider what the very first, smallest step of courageous movement would look like, taken not without concern, but faithfully in spite of it. In the midst of chaos, the Stoics prescribed a surprising medicine, a rigorous inventory of what is going right. This practice of gratitude is far more than a simple feel-good exercise. It is a form of disciplined reasoning, a deliberate correction to our mind's natural bias toward focusing on threats and what is missing. It forces us to acknowledge the vast landscape of goods we already possess, many of which fall into that crucial Stoic category of preferred indifference. These are the things that, while not being essential to our virtue, make life profoundly more comfortable and agreeable, and to ignore them is a failure to see reality clearly. Seneca, in his writings on benefits, delves deeply into this very idea. He observes that we often treat the great blessings of our lives, like health, friendship, and security, as commonplaces, while we inflate the smallest inconveniences into major crises. He suggests that a wise person is not one who has the most, but one who needs the least, because they are fully aware of the riches they already hold. Marcus Aurelius began his own day with this mental ritual, listing in his journal specific things he could be thankful for, from the character of his family to the simple fact of being alive and capable of reason. His gratitude was a grounding wire, connecting him to the tangible goods of his existence before facing the uncertainties of imperial duty. To bring this into your own life, try a brief nightly review. As you lie in bed before sleep takes over, mentally name 3 specific and simple things you are grateful for from that day. On a difficult day, this becomes even more powerful. It could be the warmth of the blankets, the taste of a cool glass of water, or a single sentence of kindness from a stranger. The subject does not matter as much as the act of noticing itself. You are not manufacturing false positivity. You are simply acknowledging the facts of your experience, re-anchoring your mind in the reality of the good that coexists with the challenge. So right now, pause for just a moment. Identify 3 preferred indifference you currently enjoy but almost always take for granted. Perhaps it is the reliable electricity powering your home, the easy access to clean water from your tap, or the simple safety of your neighborhood that allows you to walk without fear. These are not small things, they are the very foundation of a dignified life. To see them clearly is to realize that your world, even in its chaos, is still abundantly supplied with quiet gifts. When you are unsure how to act, ask yourself, what would the ideal wise person do here? This figure, known in Stoic philosophy as the sage, is not a historical person who achieved flawless perfection. Instead, think of the sage as a North Star for your moral compass, an aspirational guide used to calibrate your own judgments and actions toward greater virtue. The Stoics often pointed to real individuals as models of this ideal, with Socrates standing as a prime example for his unwavering commitment to truth and his calm acceptance of his circumstances, or Cato the Younger, admired for his steadfast integrity in the face of immense political pressure. These figures were not gods, they were human beings whose lives provided a concrete template for what a life lived in accordance with reason could look like. The question is not about imitating their specific actions, but about absorbing the principled spirit behind those actions. In the middle of a personal conflict, for instance, rather than reacting from a place of immediate defensiveness, you pause and ask, how would a person embodying perfect rationality, justice, and courage handle this disagreement? The answer will not be a detailed script, but a directional shift in your thinking. It might guide you to listen first instead of preparing your counter-argument, or to express your perspective with clarity and without sharpness, focusing on the issue itself rather than the other person. This mental model provides a powerful external reference point that helps you navigate your own emotional landscape. For the rest of today, choose one real or historical figure you genuinely admire for their strength of character. It could be a public figure known for their wisdom, a family member who has shown profound resilience, or even a fictional character who embodies a steadfast spirit. Carry their imagined counsel with you as you move through your day. Before you speak in a meeting, before you respond to a difficult message, take one silent moment to consult your chosen sage. How would they navigate this moment with grace and principle? This exercise does not require you to be perfect, only to orient yourself toward a higher standard, one thoughtful question at a time. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. This is Stoic alchemy. It is the conscious, creative process of taking what appears to be a roadblock and transmuting it into the very substance of your progress. Amor Fati, the love of one's fate, finds its most dynamic expression here, not in passive acceptance, but in the active decision to build with the materials you have been given, even when those materials include challenge and waiting. Marcus Aurelius captured this transformative shift with stunning clarity when he wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He is not suggesting the obstacle magically vanishes. He is revealing that your creative response to it forges a new and often better path forward. A setback does not block your journey, it redefines the route. Think of a musician who develops a physical challenge in their hand, something that prevents them from playing their instrument in the traditional way. The obstacle is real and deeply frustrating. Stoic alchemy asks, what if this limitation is not an ending but a beginning? It could force a period of deep listening, leading to a profound new understanding of musical theory. It might compel them to compose in a new way, using different tools, ultimately giving birth to a unique sound they would never have discovered otherwise. The obstacle did not just teach patience, it actively shaped their artistic identity. In the world of business, a product launch that fails to gain traction can feel like a definitive verdict. But within that experience lies invaluable data, a raw material of truth about the market or the user experience that was previously invisible. The obstacle of the unsuccessful launch becomes the fuel for a pivotal innovation, a crucial adjustment that transforms the entire venture. This is not positive thinking, it is strategic thinking. It is looking at the lump of clay in your hands and deciding to sculpt it, rather than lamenting that it is not already a finished piece. So bring to mind one current obstacle in your own life. It could be a relational tension, a resource constraint, or a personal limitation. Now pause and ask yourself this single question. If I were to treat this not as a barrier but as raw material, what is one specific quality it could force me to develop? Could this communication breakdown teach me to listen more deeply? Could this financial pressure inspire a new level of creativity and resourcefulness? Could this delay create the space for more thorough preparation? By reframing the obstacle as fuel, you shift from being a recipient of your circumstances to becoming the architect of your response. The way forward was never around the obstacle, but directly through it, shaped by your own reasoned and resilient hands. Your most constant companion is your inner voice. Is it a thoughtful guide or a cynical critic? This ongoing internal conversation does more than just narrate your day. It actively shapes your reality, coloring your judgments and steering your emotional responses far more than the external events themselves. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a powerful insight about this very process. He said, "Be careful what you allow to enter your mind, for you will carry it about for a long time." He understood that an unchallenged negative judgment, once admitted, takes root and begins to direct your life from the inside. Your inner critic is not stating facts, it is presenting impressions, and your power lies in whether you accept those impressions as truth. Consider the difference between two possible inner responses to the same challenging situation, like a looming work deadline. The self-defeating monologue might sound like this: "I am completely overwhelmed, I cannot handle this, this is going to be a difficult experience." This internal voice accepts the initial impression of overwhelm without question, fueling anxiety and inaction. Now, listen to a monologue reframed through a Stoic lens. "This is a test of my discipline and focus. I cannot control the tight deadline, but I can control my next action. I will break this down into one small, manageable step." This voice does not deny the difficulty, but it guides your focus back to your sphere of control, transforming a challenge into an opportunity to practice virtue. The event is the same, but your inner world becomes a place of strategy instead of a source of panic. For the next hour, I invite you to become a gentle observer of your own self-talk. Do not judge it, simply notice its tone. When you catch a negative or fearful statement, pause for just a moment. Then, consciously reframe that single thought into something more objective and empowering. If you hear, "This person is impossible to work with," you might gently reframe it to, "I cannot control their actions, but I can control my patience and my clarity in this interaction." This simple act of redirection is not about positive thinking, it is about truthful thinking. It is you taking command of the one conversation that truly determines the quality of your inner world. Seneca observed that we are not given a short life, but we make it short by wasting it. That feeling of being swept along by chaos often comes from how we choose to fill our days. We rush from one task to the next, our calendars overflowing, yet we can end the day feeling strangely empty, as if our time has been spent without our true consent. The restlessness we feel is less about the number of hours we have and more about how many of those hours are given to things that hold no real meaning for us, to worries and pursuits that lie entirely outside the boundaries of our influence. In his profound letter on the shortness of life, Seneca notes that life is long enough if you know how to use it. He saw clearly that a life spent chasing social validation, fretting over the opinions of others, or accumulating possessions we do not need is a life lived in a state of quiet desperation. We say time is short, but we sacrifice it to trivialities as if it were an endless resource. This is the ultimate loss of direction, the slow drift away from what is truly ours. To reclaim your time is to reclaim your life. Try a simple but revealing audit. For one day, carry a small notebook or use a note-taking app. Jot down in broad categories how you spend your hours. Be honest, how much time was given to worrying about a future you cannot command? How many minutes were lost to scrolling through information that did not serve your growth or peace? How much energy was spent on lingering thoughts over a past event you cannot change? Now, look at the column for actions taken within your control, for moments of purposeful engagement, for time spent with people you value, for activities that align with your deepest principles. The difference between these two columns is the measure of your self-directed life. This is not about productivity, it is about sovereignty. So this week, make one conscious edit. Identify one recurring activity that drains your time without nourishing your spirit. It might be that extra half hour on a news site in the evening, or a habitual social commitment that leaves you feeling depleted rather than connected. What if you reclaimed that time and invested it in something that is authentically yours, like reading a book that challenges you, taking a walk without your phone, or having a single, uninterrupted conversation with someone you love? This is not about adding more to your plate, but about removing what does not belong there. By clearing away the noise, you create the space necessary for calm, for reason, and for the things that truly matter to emerge. In a storm, it is easy to become selfish. The Stoics said this is when your virtue is most needed. Amid the noise and haste, the instinct can be to pull inward, to guard your own peace at the expense of everyone else. But Stoic philosophy presents a compelling alternative, that our own tranquility is deeply connected to how we treat others. This is the virtue of justice, the fourth and crowning pillar of Stoic wisdom, which they defined not just as following rules, but as an active commitment to fairness, kindness, and the common good. Marcus Aurelius, while leading an empire through conflict and difficulty, constantly reminded himself of this duty. He wrote in his personal reflections, "I am made for being kind to my own kind." We are here to help one another, and then he asks himself a piercing question: what brings you here if not to work for others? He saw his own purpose and stability as deeply linked to his service to the human community. This perspective transforms chaos from a purely personal trial into a shared human experience where your actions carry weight. When you feel things are spinning out of control, choosing to act justly is not a secondary concern, it is the ultimate application of your control. You may not command the market or the weather, but you have absolute command over whether you act with integrity and compassion in your next interaction. Think of a stressful team meeting where tensions are high and blame is being passed around. The chaotic impression might urge you to defend your own position aggressively or to withdraw into silence. The just response, however, is to listen patiently, to acknowledge the valid points of others even when you disagree, and to contribute thoughts that aim for a fair solution for the entire group, not just a victory for yourself. This is not being soft, it is being strong. It is the strength to uphold your principles when the situation tempts you to abandon them. Your act of fairness becomes a small anchor of stability in that tumultuous room. So here is a challenge for your day. Perform one small, anonymous act of kindness or fairness, simply because it is the right thing to do. It could be as simple as letting a hurried person go ahead of you in line, or sending a supportive note to a colleague without expecting any credit. The anonymity is key because it ensures the act is for the sake of justice itself, not for any external reward or recognition. In that quiet, deliberate action, you are not just helping another person, you are reinforcing the unshakable part of your own character, the part that remains good even when the world feels anything but. This is the master Stoic skill, learning to say no to your own thoughts. We have explored the inner citadel, but this discipline is the active, daily work of guarding its gates. Every impression that arrives, every initial judgment that something is good or bad, must be presented to this inner gatekeeper before it is allowed to enter and shape your emotional world. The philosopher Epictetus, who built his entire teaching on this foundation, stated it with unforgettable clarity. He said that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The event itself is neutral until you grant it meaning through your assent. This is the discipline of withholding that automatic agreement. It is the space between a feeling and a fact where your true freedom lies. Imagine your mind receives an impression, a thought whispering that a minor professional setback is a complete disaster that ruins everything. Your automatic habit might be to nod in agreement, to let that story take root and dictate a response of panic or dejection. The discipline of assent is the conscious interruption of that process. You catch the thought and hold it at the gate. You look at it and say, "I see you." You are the impression that this is a catastrophe, but is that objectively true, or is it merely an initial feeling? You then choose to assent only to a more measured and rational interpretation. You might decide to accept the thought, "This is an inconvenience that I can handle with reason." By doing so, you are not denying the challenge, but you are refusing to be swept away by a dramatic and unhelpful narrative. Your power is not in stopping the impression from arising, but in consciously choosing which ones you will ultimately believe. Think of a recurring negative impression in your own life. Perhaps it is the automatic thought that you are not capable enough when facing a new task, or the instant judgment that a friend's brief silence is a sign of their disapproval. For the rest of today, practice being the gatekeeper for just that one impression. When you notice it arriving, do not fight it or engage with it. Simply acknowledge its presence and then, in the quiet of your mind, add this crucial phrase, "I do not have to accept this judgment." This is not about suppressing a thought, but about reclaiming your authority over it. You are training your mind to no longer be a passive recipient of every passing feeling, but to become the discerning architect of your own inner peace. Let's weave these threads into a single, strong rope. Here is a potential daily Stoic ritual. Consistency in these small, daily practices builds a resilience far deeper than any single grand effort. The Stoics understood that character is not forged in a moment of crisis, but in the quiet, repeated choices of ordinary days. A simple, sustainable routine can be your anchor, and it need not take more than a few focused minutes. Imagine beginning your morning not by reaching for your phone, but by sitting in quiet reflection for just 5 minutes. This is your time for a thoughtful preview of the day. You bring to mind one potential challenge for the hours ahead, perhaps a difficult conversation or a demanding task. You walk through it mentally, not to worry, but to prepare. You then set your intention for the day, adding a silent acknowledgement of life's flow. You might say to yourself, "I will approach my work with diligence and focus, fate permitting." This frames your entire effort, committing you to excellence while releasing your grip on the specific outcome. As you move through your day, your primary practice is the Stoic Pause. Before you react to a stressful message, before you speak in a meeting, you take that one conscious breath. You create the space to ask, what part of this is truly mine to manage? This is the ongoing practice of presence, pulling you back from the imagined future or the remembered past into the reality of the current moment. Then, in the evening, you settle your accounts with a brief journaling session. For another 5 minutes, you reflect, what happened today that tested my peace? How did I use or forget my Stoic tools? What is one thing I can be grateful for? This act of writing transforms internal noise into structured understanding, closing the day with clarity rather than clutter. Your routine does not need to be complex. Start with just 2 or 3 of these practices tomorrow. Perhaps your minimalist Stoic day begins with the morning intention and ends with the evening gratitude. The specific combination matters less than the act of showing up for your own inner citadel, day after day, building your life from a place of chosen calm. The feeling of being out of control is not a sign that your life is broken, but an invitation to build something unbreakable within. The entire practice of Stoic reasoning is a transformation, turning the raw material of chaos into the substance of your own character. We began with the foundational anchor, the Dichotomy of Control, which teaches you to invest your energy only where it truly matters. We explored cognitive detachment, the art of creating that vital space between a triggering impression and your reasoned response. And we arrived at Amor Fati, the profound love of your fate, where every obstacle is seen not as a barrier but as the very path forward. These are not just ideas, they are tools for living. They shift your entire relationship with difficulty from one of resistance to one of engagement. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a final, beautiful summary of this entire journey. He said, freedom and serenity are won by disregarding things that lie outside our control and by aligning our will with events. This alignment is the ultimate source of calm. It is not a struggle against reality, but a harmonious partnership with it. You now hold a complete philosophical framework for navigating life's inevitable storms with reason and courage. The real work begins not with understanding, but with application. For the next week, choose just one of these principles to be your gentle companion. Perhaps you will focus on pausing before you react, or on mentally sorting your worries using the dichotomy of control, or on finding one hidden gift in a daily frustration. Carry this single practice with you and observe how it subtly reshapes your days. If this path of practical philosophy has been a source of strength for you, consider subscribing for more guidance. And we would be honored to hear from you in the comments below. Which Stoic tool resonated most deeply with your own life, and what was one small insight you will carry forward? Your journey toward an unshakable core continues with your very next